So you've got to ask yourself, is this piece of gear making me better, or is it actually just propping me up as a filmmaker? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you do not know who I am, my name is Ed. I'm a Melbourne-based photographer and videographer. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed at all, but there's been a couple of small announcements about a couple of cameras coming out. You probably didn't see them much in your feed at all. I'm just fucking with you. It would be impossible to miss the fact that there's been so many gear announcements over the last few months. It has been insane. Forgiven for forgetting that there might be a global pandemic with the way that camera companies are absolutely smashing gear out at the moment. Sony a7S III, the Canon R5, the Canon R6, even Zones just released a brand new gimbal as of a couple of days ago of shooting this. It is a pretty crazy time and expensive time to be a filmmaker. Now, the conversation I want to have today, guys, is more about gear and whether you really need that upgrade. I know I'm not the first person to touch on this. I will not be the last person to touch on this, but it's something very, very important to keep in mind, because I feel like a lot of beginners and a lot of people that were starting out rush to buy new gear because I think it's going to give them that next level. You know, they see their favorite filmmaker or a photographer they really look up to, and they're taking these absolute banger shots, but then you see, you know, they're using this camera, and then in your mind you're thinking, well, I just need that camera and I'm going to take those shots, which is not the truth at all. So I think when we see these new things coming out, they're nice and shiny, they're brand new, the specs are amazing, we sort of rush to it without actually considering whether or not we need this piece of gear or whether we want this piece of gear. So whenever I'm going to buy a piece of gear, there's a couple of questions I really need to ask myself. So for a little bit of context, I've pre-ordered the Sony a7S III. I'm a Sony shooter already. I love Sony, and to get that, it actually sat in my cart for about 2 weeks before I finally made the decision. And I was mulling over these same questions again and again to see whether this is something I needed or something that I wanted. Especially times like it is now where everything's a bit up in the air. In Melbourne at the moment, we're in stage 4 lockdown, which means no going out, no shooting, basically only essential services can operate, which is not photography and videography. So, you know, I've got to be a bit conservative with my money and purchase things that I really believe are going to make a difference to my filmmaking and help me create better quality content. And I came to the conclusion a7S III was one of those pieces. But I followed this set of questioning. Number one, something that you should always ask yourself before you buy any piece of gear is this going to make me a better filmmaker, or is this going to help cover up gaps in my knowledge? What I mean by that is, you know, the better gear gets, it tends to be able to hide little flaws and little things in your knowledge. You know, a little bit more dynamic range might make your footage look a little polished, you know, get less clipping on the whole across your images, more data in your raws, higher quality data in the photos might mean you can salvage more shadows in your photos. Things like that might cover up the fact that you don't really know how to expose photos properly. You don't know how to expose for S-Log or Cine or all these different profiles that you might get on your cameras, and the better camera is sort of acting as your prop to keep you up. So you've got to ask yourself, is this piece of gear making me better and genuinely contributing to my skill set as a filmmaker to push that a little bit further, or is it actually just propping me up as a filmmaker? The reason you want to ask this is because that's only going to carry you so far. Yes, gear does matter. Like, I'm not going to get the same image out of a point and shoot camera that I'm going to get out of one of my interchangeable lens cameras with a proper setup, proper lighting and all that. It's just not going to happen. But what's going to carry you further as a filmmaker is knowledge about the craft. And that's something you really need to ask yourself when you're purchasing these cameras is this acting as a crux for my holes in my knowledge, or is it genuinely my current gear set that is holding me back from reaching my potential as a filmmaker and photographer? I think that's a really important question to ask. I know for me, when I was starting out, I was purchasing all the gear that would come past me. You know, I had so many lenses. I think at one point I had 7 lenses, and I was like, why do I need 7 lenses? But I just thought, you know, every review I watched, and it was like always a spectacular lens, it was a spectacular camera. You know, you got to get this, you got to get that. And I realized after I purchased my a7 III, which is what I'm shooting on now, after upgrading from the a6500, that the images were much the same. Yes, the color science was a little bit different, but in terms of the actual quality of the image, how it was handled in the computer, and all these different factors that go into videography specifically, it didn't make that much of a difference. It did not make me a better videographer. It did not make me at all a better photographer. It was actually the knowledge that I learned along the way through using a different camera. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. You know, I could only have that knowledge now. But it was important for me to learn. So it's something you need to ask yourself, is my gear holding me back? Are there holes in my knowledge? And following on for that, you need to be really honest about where the holes in your knowledge are. For me, I never got good videos. I never got high quality videos. They were okay, but they weren't good. And there was just little things that I was missing, like shutter speed with video and flicker. Always overlooked that, always forgot it. The amount of times I'd be on a shoot with fluorescent lights and I'd come back, I'd chuck it in the computer, then all of a sudden it's just shit because there's flicker all over it. I've ruined some of my favorite videos I've ever made. Looking back at it now, it's awful, but at the time I was really proud of it, and obviously we live and we learn, but I've ruined some really good shoots and some really cool concepts with my pretty amateur knowledge and lack of patience on set. So those are things I had to work on. Again, big thing was lighting, learning how to set up lights properly, how to set up different interview styles. Not exactly doing the perfect example now, but learning how to set everything up and produce things at a higher quality out of the same camera. I think that's really important to do. So when you go to purchase that new camera and you go to buy it, you can honestly say that yes, it is my gear right now that is holding me back from reaching my true potential as a videographer, photographer, content creator, whatever you are. So if you are that beginner out there that's trying to answer the question of whether I need this gear, you know, it's sitting in your cart, maybe it's a little bit out of budget now, but you're sort of in your head going, well, it's a business asset, so technically I need it, it's for my business, it's important, which is all valid to a point, but sometimes we're just talking ourselves into stuff. So what you want to be thinking is, what are the holes in my filmmaking right now that I can work on? Do I need to improve my audio? Do I need to improve my video, my lighting? Do I need to improve, you know, how I color grade? What are the things that you can flesh out more to get more out of your camera? And then finally, if you don't think there are that many holes, or there's nothing that's seriously impacting the quality of your videos, ask yourself, will this gear make me a better filmmaker? Am I happy with the stuff I'm producing at the moment? If the answer is genuinely no, and you believe this piece of gear you're gonna buy is gonna be the reason that you are going to go to that next level, then go for it. Like, buy the piece. It's so important that you should be pursuing this and investing into this. You know, you don't wanna be so stingy to the point where you're not actually investing in yourself and investing into your business because you want to save every dollar you can. Like, it's not a cheap hobby, it's not a cheap business to run with the gear, but it does actually help having good gear, but you need to ask yourself the questions. That's it, guys. That's just my little rant. It's just something I'm just hoping someone out there, a beginner out there, might see this and hopefully save themselves a few bucks, maybe go out and learn, invest into an online course rather than just buying a new camera and just thinking, oh shit, it didn't make that much difference. So anyway, guys, you might think I'm just some salty fuck who can't afford these new cameras, but I actually did pre-purchase the A7S III, and I went through this whole thought process to help me arrive at that. So still salty, but not that salty. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing really well wherever you are in the world. If you want to check me out on Instagram, my link's below. If you've gotten this far, I would love it if you could hit the like button. Let us know if you purchased the Sony A7S III or the Canon R5 and why you did. I'm always interested to hear why people have bought gear. And I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.